This weekend, we're gonna spend time in the Swiss Alps. First, we're gonna fly to Zurich, then we're gonna go to the Berner Oberland and stay in Gimmelwald, and then we're gonna finish our trip back in Zurich.
Switzerland has some of Europe's most beautiful natural scenery, and some of the continent's best hiking options, which, thanks to direct transatlantic flights and a great transportation network, the magic of the Alps can be experienced in as little as 4 days. The biggest dilemma you'll face is which of Switzerland's alpine regions to visit.
I've been a lot of places in Switzerland, but my favorite place to go hiking is the Berner Oberland. You have glacial peaks, pastoral land for cows and goats, and a lot of just Swiss traditional culture going on everywhere. It's pretty great.
The Berner Oberland is storybook Switzerland. Alpine villages with traditional wooden houses, mountain cheese huts, miles and miles of trails without a car in sight, amazing views, and the ever-present sound of the cowbell high up in the Alps. Thanks to perfectly timed train connections, getting here is easier than you think. First, get a flight to Zurich. At the airport, hop on an intercity train to the nation's capital, Bern, where you'll make your first transfer. Bern is a good place to take an extended layover to stretch your legs after a long flight. Stroll the city's medieval streets, grab lunch, and say hello to the town's 2 resident bears. From Bern, you'll take 2 more smaller regional trains through Interlaken to the Lauterbrunnen Valley, where you'll transfer to a bus that takes you to a cable car that shoots up the side of a cliff to what may just be the most spectacular little town in all of Europe, Gimmelwald.
When it comes to finding a place to stay in the Berner Oberland, there's everywhere else, and then there's Gimmelwald.
This is Gimmelwald, a town so in love with its own quaintness that it got itself declared an avalanche zone to prevent any kind of commercial development. There are no hotels or grocery stores, just B&Bs and a couple hostels that double as restaurants at night. There's also just one narrow paved path, no roads, no cars. The only way in or out of Gimmelwald is by foot or cable car. The fanciest B&B rooms in town come with their own bathroom, neighbors with 4 legs, and views that will make you rethink modern life. If having goats outside your door is a little too quaint, the big city of Murren is just a 20-minute walk or 3-minute cable car ride up the mountain. Murren is charming by almost anyone's standards. There are no cars, lots of traditional wooden buildings, but also the big hotels and restaurants that you won't find in Gimmelwald. The weather in the Alps is unpredictable, and oftentimes will determine what it is you'll be doing that day. Our first morning in Switzerland, the sky looked clear, so we took a cable car from Gimmelwald, nearly 3,000 meters up into the Alps, to one of Switzerland's highest peaks, the Schellhorn. As with most of the high peaks in this area, it can get very crowded. It's best to come early in the morning or later in the afternoon to avoid this. But since most of those groups are staying down on the valley floor, below Gimmelwald, the mountaintop is all yours if you can make it up here before breakfast. You could also eat breakfast at the top in the revolving restaurant. On a clear day, you can see for miles, but you're more than likely to get a front row seat to see 3 of the region's most popular peaks, which are on the other side of the valley. The 3 peaks behind me are the most well-known in the region. They are the Monk, the Jungfrau, and the Eiger. That's Monk, Ogre, and Maiden Interesting side note, later that day we found out the wind shut down the cable car and people were trapped at the top for hours. By that time, we were back down in Murren, finishing lunch and getting ready for the afternoon hike.
Today we are hiking the North Face Trail, which is in the shadows of the Ogre, Monk, and Jungfrau Mountains. We started our trek at Murren, and we're gonna go through all these little alpine hamlets on the side of the mountain, and the full trail will take about 2.5–3 hours.
One of the best parts about hiking in Switzerland is that you're never far from a small town or hamlet, some of which consist only of 1 or 2 houses. Even in the most remote, high up, and inaccessible places in the mountains, you'll find little inns and restaurants. Sometimes you'll even find a cheese hut that's open for business.
During any Swiss hike through the mountains, you'll come across small little towns or little packs of huts like this. These huts are cheese huts where they store the cheese, and in the summertime you can go and they'll give you some kind of cheese demonstration.
And you can get a little cheese snack. Not all alpine hiking is open pastures and rolling green hills. Occasionally, you'll stumble across small pockets of thick forest.
And we are on our way back down to Gimmelwald on the North Face hike. And we are about to go through this little canyon or across it. And it requires a little walk underneath those falls. And you go up the stairs on the other side. So, yep, that's our hike back to Gimmelwald.
No matter what altitude you're at, you'll find clear, well-marked trails, signposts that point you in the right direction, and some even come with time estimates. Towns with a picture of a cable car have just that. After a good night's sleep and a fondue dinner, you'll be ready for an even longer hike in the morning.
Today, we're hiking out of Gimmelwald and hiking all the way up there. It should take us about a half day.
This hike, which was absolutely amazing, took us out of Gimmelwald, down closer to the valley floor, before a long, steep vertical ascent, much of it along still used cow paths.
Nikki, can you point to Gimmelwald?
Sure.
About how far are we from Gimmelwald?
We're about an hour and a half-ish away from Gimmelwald, high in the hills.
And it looks like the sun is finally coming out on the mountains above Gimmelwald. Do we know which peak that is? The Jungfrau, the Monk, or yeah, one of the 3.
The higher you climb, the more unpredictable the weather becomes.
And the weather up here does change really, really fast. How fast, Nikki?
Really fast.
Yeah, that's cloud cover that rolled in 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But we are at the top of a peak. I think we're finally at the summit. And we're gonna stop for a little snack. Even at 2,000 meters up in the Alps, where there's not a single other person in sight, you'll find little huts like this, often with picnic tables where you can have lunch, and a readily available source of fresh, clean drinking water.
Regardless of when you visit, the best hike may depend on that particular day's weather. For the best advice on where to go walking, ask your host. My advice, maximize your time in the Alps. Spend as many days as possible there. But if you really want to see big city Switzerland, then Zurich is the logical choice. If for no other reason, then chances are you'll be flying out of that airport. One night is more than enough to see its tranquil lake, explore the city, and have one last fondue dinner before it's back to reality. Thanks for watching, and happy travels!